Hi everybody, hope you're well. So this video is requested by Hannah England, and this I'm going to be talking about the difference between competitive players or competitive gameplay versus regular, maybe casual players. So this is kind of opinion based, and I'm just going to kind of give a general overview of what I feel makes a difference between those. And you might have seen it in the forums, maybe somebody saying, "Well, I'm a casual player." And somebody else might say, well, I'm a competitive player, and you might actually have had a question on maybe a team application that you apply to asking you what type of player you are you competitive, are you casual, and etc. And I thought we'd try and sort of look at that and look at it in a bit more depth. So I think that the differences between a competitive versus a regular player is to do with activity. So their game activity within the game. A competitive player to me is somebody who's very active, they're working on goals more intensely. So say for example you had two different players and one wanted to breed the best Arabs that they could and the other one wanted to breed the best Arabs that they could. A competitive player most likely would be looking at what other people are doing. They'd be trying to find the best way to do it, and they would be putting maybe more time on the game on to do that. Whereas I think somebody who's playing it very casually is doing it at their own pace. They're not concerned with other factors outside of that necessarily. So, and it can go a little bit, it can delve into one side and the other, because I've known people who have been casual and then have got competitive, and vice versa, people who have been competitive have gone casual. And I think it also depends on your game. Like if I look at my gameplay over the course of many years, I can see where I was a casual player, where I was competitive, where I've gone casual again, and where I kind of delve in back and forth, quite a lot between the two. So I think it's a little bit of each really. So the lines kind of blur, I think, sometimes. And I don't, one of the things I want to sort of say that doesn't necessarily define whether somebody's competitive or casual is whether they buy passes. Because I've known people, who don't buy passes who are really competitive. I've known people who don't buy passes who are casual. And on the same coin, I've seen people who do buy passes that are both those types. So I don't think buying passes can define it. I think somebody that's competitive would be actively monitoring their progress and working out ways to get better. So say, for example, you go and check your ranking every day and you see how you're doing against other people. You're looking to see, okay, maybe I can go and find some more trophies to get a bit higher in trophies, or maybe you want to be more wealthy on the game. Maybe it's your seniority, maybe it's your popularity. Things that you would be doing to sort of take sort of look and see where you're going and where you're going to have to go. So I think somebody that is concerned in that competitive aspect is going to be actively monitoring their progress in whatever area they're interested in. Now, you could have somebody who's competitive and wants to be brilliant in everything, so they'll monitor everything. But then you could have somebody who's just interested in how wealthy they are in the game, so they're going to focus on just that. And then you can have somebody who's really focused on a certain breed and having the best horses in that, and they're going to focus on that. Whereas I feel like a casual player isn't so worried about the general community, and they're more focused on themselves in that they want to, achieve their goals, and they're not so worried about, outside effects on that, I guess. But it doesn't mean that they're not taking any, they're not aware of it. It just might be that, well, they can see that there's other people doing other teams or whatever, and they just think, well, I'm not concerned with that. I'm just going to focus on mine, and I'm only concerned with my horses. Which I think I've known times where I'm just like breeding unicorns, for example, and I'm only focused on my unicorns. I, wasn't worried about any other ones. I just wanted to get a breed of, one unicorn of every breed. And that was a very casual goal because I was doing it in my own time and I wasn't concerned with what was going on outside. I didn't mind whether other people had done it before me, or somebody who's maybe competitive and, they see a goal that's going to be a new goal and they want to, get that. So I think a competitive player as well, they will seek ways to do things better, more efficiently, more quickly. So I think if they spot a problem or maybe something they think they can do better, they're going to be quicker at trying to find out how to make it better. Whereas I think somebody who's more casual about it, they'll say, oh, I'll come back to that. We're not too worried. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're in a team. As I mentioned earlier, as I said, it doesn't necessarily mean you buy passes. A competitive player doesn't necessarily have to be in a team. As I said, they could be most competitive for how much equus they have in the game. They might be more concerned with the best EC on their game, things like that. So I think if somebody asks you, are you a competitive player, and they're talking about teams, for example, if that was a question on a team application, well, you're going to have to think, am I really competitive in a team aspect? But maybe you might say, okay, I'm not, but I can show evidence where I've been competitive outside of that, I've had really good EC, and I've been actively trying to improve that. So I think really competitive players are really trying to seek ways of improving all the time, and they're monitoring things, finding things, testing things out. I think that's kind of a major part of that. Whereas, like, I think there are a large majority, I think, of people who just like to play it. They're not worried about anything. They just like taking care of their horses and stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. There isn't. They're just enjoying their game in their own way. So I think the main difference, probably overall, I think, for competitive versus regular players is I think competitive players tend to monitor their whole community's progress and see how that will affect them. Because if I know, okay, there's 5 players who've been really rapidly coming up the rankings lately, then I might have to be aware of that as a competitive player if I want to maintain my rank. So I would have to then do things to make sure that they don't pass me or that I move up. Whereas if you were a casual player and you had no care in the world about what anybody else was doing, then you wouldn't be bothered. So I think that's a big part of it. I think competitive players are aware of their community and are at least monitoring it if they're not engaging with it as well. And I think some people that I would say would be very casual would be people who just want to chat and they want to work with their horses and not be really concerned outside of that, and they just enjoy the game for what it is. So I think those are some of the main differences that I see versus competitive or regular. If you see some more and you want to share, that would be great. I'd be interested to hear people's views on that. So that's just my kind of general overview of what I think the differences are between those two. As I said, these lines blur and they merge, and over your course of your game, I don't think I've ever known anybody who's been competitive, like really highly competitive from day one to the last time they ever played. I think it changes over time. You're going to have times where you're not as active as you might have been, and I think as a player it's important to have those different stages because it helps shape you over time, and I think it helps you learn as well, because I don't think I think if anybody I know that really worked at a very highly competitive level for a very long time, it kind of wears you down a bit, and I think you kind of have to sometimes take a wee step back. So that's my general review of that anyway. Thank you to Hannah England for requesting the video. I hope you have a lovely day. Bye.